So we have Vegas, and uh, although I am looking forward to the race in a way, um, because it's gonna be different a bit. I think with the straights and the weird kind of corners it has. Whether it will be different in a good way or a bad way, I don't know, but it will be different, I think. But I feel the need to comment on something before the video that I'll do after the race, and that is just this ridiculous situation that occurred with Science, Ocon and Science, and then the madness that then preceded it. Now, there's a few things to unpack, but I really want this video to be short. So I'm going to try and summarize them. Firstly, what the organizers, and I don't know if it's organizers necessarily, but the people who prepared the track, engineering team, because I guess that's a combination of the organizers in Vegas and Liberty Media and FOM, which is Formula One Management, because I understand that they invested very heavily in this race. It's not just a private promoter doing it, which is typical of most of the other races. This is one that Liberty Media and FOM actually have a vested commercial interest in, which is unusual. And you'd think that they would kind of make sure that they ticked every box, crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's. But it just seems crazy, farcical almost. Firstly, the track itself with the manhole cover. Now, this is not remotely unprecedented. This has happened at least 3, I think, probably more, probably 4 or 5 if I'm really. I'm not going to profess to be an expert historian on it, but I know of at least 3 in my time of watching F1 and probably a couple hours before it, of manhole covers, drain covers, other objects that are on the surface being sucked up by the undertray of the car based on the negative pressure that's under there. And in every single instance, it was disastrous. It ended in destroying the floors of the car, causing injuries to the drivers in some cases, and inevitably causing accidents and, just general mayhem. Now, with that amount of information available, and you're building something from scratch like what they did here, how on earth can you make a mistake like that? I don't know how true it is yet, but I'm hearing that they used resin and some other stuff to affix the frame for the manhole cover. That is crazy. I mean, you surely by now must be aware of what these modern era ground effects cars are doing. And to think that would ever hold down a metal object from the bottom of a car like that at that speed is crazy. Those cars are doing over 300 kilometers per hour on the straight. The amount of downforce that it's generating is mind-boggling at that point. It's probably generating more than 2,000 pounds of downforce, which means that is being created by a massive suction at the bottom of the car, sucking the car down with that amount of force. I mean, obviously not all of that is coming from the floor, but a lot of it is. And that is an insane, thought that you would not have anticipated that this problem would have occurred, right? And obviously there's several of them around the track. So that's, to me, is unforgivable. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that the shocking reaction of the organizers to the situation, in that this is reputed to be probably the most expensive race on the calendar in terms of spectators. Now, imagine you are pushing this thing as this big US push to market F1 and make it available to a wider audience and all of that. That sounds great on the surface, and in principle I don't even have a problem with it on Liberty Media side. But then how do you treat the fans, the people who actually paid? People have traveled. F1 is an international sport. People have traveled all over the world, from all over the world I should say, to Las Vegas, paid thousands of dollars in airfare, hotels, and then the ridiculous ticket prices. We're talking, again, in many cases, thousands of dollars, not hundreds, thousands of dollars. And then, because you are unable to properly secure the stands with stewards and marshals and so on and security, You tell people that they have to leave. And when they refuse to, naturally, because they've only seen 8 minutes of cars on the track after paying how much thousands of dollars, you bring the police and arrest some of them and force the rest of them to leave. I mean, the reputational damage is incalculable, right? Then let's go now to the teams themselves. I mean, I watched a press conference where Toto Wolff said, I think it's probably one of the most remarkable things I've heard a team principal say, where he literally dismissed the issue of the manhole cover as, oh, it's nothing. It just happened on a Thursday. You know, it's like nothing. It doesn't mean it. He literally used the words like, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, that level of unawareness, of just total being completely removed from reality is just incredible to me. Right? I don't know how Fred Vasseur, who was sitting beside him, didn't turn around and slap him. Because that is just incomprehensible that a team principal would make a statement like that. I highly doubt that if one of his drivers had been involved in the accident, he would have taken that tone, right? I mean, I can understand you have commercial interests. He's not just a team principal. He's actually a part owner of the team. So he has a massive vested financial interest in the sport. And, you know, I mean, because of that, you can see that he's pandering clearly to the Liberty Media and to the promoters. But there's a point at which you have to say, no, hold on, this needs to be addressed. The madness that I heard him saying in that press conference, and I mean being abusive to the journalists, actually telling the journalists bad words, what kind of madness is that? Cursing? It's like I'm watching something and I'm saying to myself, no man, this can't be real. This must be an act, right? So that, and then this is a man who, I mean, it might sound like I'm harping on Toto, but it's worth it, because it really, really, really pissed me off. I mean, I was outraged. This is a man who, the ultimate hypocrisy of this particular statement. A man who preaches about sportsmanship and fairness and how he would never want to win by cheating, and he believes in sportsmanship, and all of this kind of moralistic, high ground that he constantly preaches from this pulpit. When the opportunity came and the stewards recognized that they cannot reverse the penalty based on the rules, in force majeure, you can make teams sign a document, which I, as a racer, know, as a personal racer, when we race, there are times when the organizers have to come and get permission from everybody, and everybody has to sign. But it has to be unanimous, because if one person, if just one single dissenter does not sign, then the rule change can't be implemented. Why? Because even if let's say you have 10 competitors and 9 agree, if the one who doesn't agree then subsequently protests, they're protesting based on the pre-existing rule, and that would have to take precedent over any rule change you make. So you can understand why that exists. However, what you cannot understand, or you shouldn't understand, I should say, is when it was put to the teams to say, hey, can all of you sign this because we'd like to change the rule to allow this? 9 teams signed, but guess which one didn't? Haha, Toto Wolff and Mercedes. Why? Obviously, because they're second in the championship and Ferrari is getting pretty close. I think it's like 20 points separating them now, and they have 2 races left. Now, all of this moralistic high ground preaching apparently doesn't impact on that decision. All of a sudden, it's screw Ferrari, too bad for you, right? The other 9 people are willing to allow it, but not Mercedes. I find that very distasteful. So Toto's conduct over the weekend, or not weekend, we don't even reach the weekend yet fully. Over the course of the last day or two, sorry, I wasn't really a fan of his before, but now he's definitely in my bad books. Seriously, I have no respect left for this dude. None whatsoever, right? He's lost all credibility with me when it comes to any sort of principled positions that he can take. So sorry, not acceptable. Now, this safety thing is not a joke. I mean, that car was doing a little over 300 kilometers per hour. And bear in mind, Sainz had actually slowed down a little bit by the time the impact occurred, because Ocon had hit it just before him and triggered the yellow flag, which then Sainz saw the yellow flag. He didn't know what it was, obviously, but he saw the yellow flag and he backed off. So he could have hit it even harder. Now, I saw a video later in the evening from a CCTV camera in front of one of the casinos that showed a different angle of the impact. And it was huge. When the car hit the manhole cover, the amount of fire and sparks and smoke that came out of the back of the car was incredible. I mean, just imagine if it had ruptured like a fuel tank or something, which is possible. In that kind of impact, it's possible because it's tearing out through the floor of the car, right? Imagine if fuel had gotten into that spark trail behind it as vapor. It could have caused an explosion or at the very least a very serious fire. Again, these are serious things. That manhole cover, let's say when Ocon passed over it, it had flicked up in the air and hit Sainz. He probably would have been dead because that's a heavy piece of metal. It's not an insubstantial thing. I remember when the spring had fallen off of one of the BAR Hondas at the time and hit Barrichello. It hit him on his helmet partially and on the face shield, and he suffered massive injuries from it, right? That was a serious thing. Much less, and that's just a little spring. It wasn't even a suspension spring. It was a spring from something else. I don't remember what it was now, right? And it caused a huge amount of injury to him. He was hospitalized for a good period of time, right? Suffered severe injuries. Imagine if this manhole cover had hit Sainz. I mean, I just think the way that it's being treated lightly, as if, it's just a Thursday practice and they'll be fine and they'll fix it and they'll move on. Man, that's a bad way to look at it. As a driver, I felt that one. That's the talk about total disregard for people's safety. Sorry, not happy. Couple of things I'll say about the track as well, but I'll leave that for the other video and the promotion in general. Just to say in closing that I don't think it's a bad idea to have the race there. I know that might not be that much of a popular opinion. I think there's merit to it. I think there's merit to expanding it. I think there's merit to the races in the US. I think there's merit to bringing in Andretti and certainly merit to bringing in GM if that can be achieved. And so there's scope for development, and I'm willing to give the race a chance. But they need to do better. This is a horrible start. And I mean, and they need to fix that quickly. And the teams need to get together and say, hey, the show is all great and we need it because we need the money. But if the sporting side of it isn't addressed, we're going to have a problem. That's my view. Give me some feedback. Remember to maybe again be the typical blogger. You need to subscribe and like and all of that associated stuff. And of course, after this qualifying and race, I'll do another video. All right.